We've set up the stock for our part, and we've previously set up the type of machine we're using, which is a mill. And we use the default mill, which works fine for us. The next step is to have Mastercam tell us how to move our end mill in the complex fashion which will mill out the three features we have here. The pocket in the middle here, the groove on the outside periphery, and also this sequence of holes. Okay. So to do that, we want to go to Tool Paths, and we have a lot of different choices. There's contour, there's drill, there's pocket, there's face milling. 2D high speed is a proprietary Mastercam type of milling toolpath that we'll use when we make our box. These are feature-based milling toolpaths, which might touch on. First thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and hit that pocket in the middle. That might be the easiest one, so I'm going to click pocket, and it's going to give me a name for my NC file, basically. So I'm going to click the green arrow. Now I get the chaining dialog box, and it says select pocket chain 1. This is really the most important part of Mastercam, in my opinion, the most not difficult to grasp, but just once you get the hang of it, it's straightforward, but initially it may seem foreign. Basically, a chain is a bunch of features which are connected. They can be lines and arcs connected together, and that particular chaining of those features has a definite direction. And if you think about it, making something that's a chain, as I've just described it, might tell an end mill how to move around the feature that we're trying to mill. So I am going to select 3D here and 3D here because I have a 3D part. It's not wireframe, although right now it's in the appearance of a wireframe. Remember, we can toggle back and forth with the Alt-S key. Come through here, this allows us to select an edge to start making our chain. And this is a loop, this is a face, partial loop, and so on and so forth. I'm going to deselect the face, so I just want to select an edge from my part here, and it's also it's going to look for an edge with a loop associated with it. So in wireframe mode, it's easy to kind of see through the part, and we're just going to go ahead and select an edge related to our pocket, which is what we're trying to build. So I'm going to come over here to the top of this pocket, and you can see I have the little E for edge and a straight line, so I click it, and you can see that it's now blue on this edge, which I selected, and it looks for one of the loops associated with that edge. In other words, a loop which has, this edge has one of its parts. Well, we don't want this particular loop, we want the other face. So we'll be doing this repeatedly. So I click other face, and you can see that now the blue sort of goes around the top of the pocket, and that's what we want to have, because we want to tell our end mill to circle around there and mill down, straight down. Okay, I'll select that, and I'll select that, and this brings up the 2D toolpaths, in particular the pocket window. So we're already on pocket. Let's talk about what we have to do now. We've kind of told the end mill where it needs to go and how we'd like for it to move roughly right around that loop, that chain. And now we need to tell Mastercam what machine parameters we have, so to speak. In particular, a tool, right? This is an end mill, so nothing's selected. We're going to select in the library, and I'm going to just select a tool number 232, which is a 1/8 inch flat end mill. 1/4 inch might be more appropriate for the size of that pocket, but I'm going to choose the 1/8 flatten mill. Okay, so I select it, there it is. We can ignore holder for now. Cut parameters, this is where really most of the action is. And so if we look through here very briefly, we're going to do what's called a climb cut, which we'll touch on in the future. It's got a little cartoon of how it's going to mill out that pocket, how to make sense. It comes down gently in a helix rather than just blasting right through it without any sort of gentle motion, and then it's going to do an up and down. And remember, we could have there it is, sorry. So yeah, it's going to do that. Okay, roughing, that's the one that tells us what we're going to do, and we're going to stay with zigzag. Entry motion is a helix. We'll keep that as the default. Finishing, this is if we're trying to get a fine finish on the end of it, and so we're just gonna go with that. Depth cuts. If I have a very deep cut, not a very deep cut, but a deep cut relative to the diameter of the end mill, I'm going to do some depth cuts. I'm going to tell it to go a maximum of 0.125, an eighth of an inch down. So it's not going to try to gouge that thing out completely in one pass. Breakthrough, we don't want to go through the bottom, so we'll touch that. Linking parameters, as I mentioned once before, really could be renamed Z parameters. And the thing we want to do here is kind of just look at this cartoon and study it a little bit. And it's got a retract elevation, a feed plane. We can talk about that at some point as well. It's got a top of a stock, which is 0. Obviously, that's always the case. And I'm going to select absolute coordinates for depth. And to get the depth, I'm going to click depth. I'm going to come over to my wireframe geometry and click the bottom. You can see that it's minus 0.375, so it's 3/8 of an inch deep. Okay? So now we've told the end mill how deep to go. Now for home and reference points, I'm going to try to modify this our default to already have this in there, but I'm just going to put in some parameters that are relevant for our mill. And that's home position of about -5, 10, and Z for the X, Y, and Z. I want to have a specific approach and retract direction so that you guys can see sort of the orientation of our mill with respect to the part. I think this is kind of useful. And we're going to come in from the left, so to speak. So if you'll remember, a negative X comes in from the left, and we're going to come in from about 2 inches high. And then when we retract away, we're going to move into the back, about 5 and up to 2. So we're going to come in from the side, and we're going to leave out the back, so to speak. Okay. So I click that, and you can see that I have a nice toolpath. If I back off, you can see it coming in, doing its business, and goes out in a mutually perpendicular direction. And really kind of neat. You can see all the toolpaths it's got. Remember, it's going to do 3 of these because I'm doing depth cuts at 1/8 of an inch, and I need to go 3/8 inch deep. And of course, this is my helix entering the mill. Okay, next screencast, we're going to continue with how to verify that this actually works, which is a standard procedure in Mastercam.